takes the lead. And meanwhile, Ricky Rudd trying to... Oh, and Earnhardt.
In NASCAR, there comes cases of moments, people, and organizations who on paper seemed as though they were destined for greatness. But, for some reason or another, things did not work out in the end. When that happens, many would want to point the blame at a number of reasons why. But for this NASCAR fan and others, there's only one thing that we can ask. What happened?
ESPN, celebrating its 10th season as the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Today, live from Phoenix International Raceway, the Auto Works 500.
ESPN, the worldwide leader of sports broadcasting, or at least that's what most have known them to be since their inception in 1979. You could watch anything from your favorite college sports to your NFL team, and get the latest news and insider information on the latest in all sports, and you could even tune in to a personal favorite of mine, the Bassmasters. Side note, DannyBTalks will be part of the media coverage for the 2023 Bassmasters Classic, so expect more fun fishing related content in the coming months before March. But at one time, you could also find NASCAR on ESPN, featuring everything from a full season of the NASCAR Nationwide Series races, the latter half of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and weekly programming like NASCAR Now, featuring analysis of the biggest news in NASCAR that week from their insightful team of analysts, including former drivers like Ricky Craven, Rusty Wallace, and Dale Jarrett, among others. But that's only the recent history of ESPN's tenure covering NASCAR. NASCAR's relationship with ESPN first originated with their relationship with ESPN's parent organization ABC in the 1960s through ABC's Wide World of Sports, in which it presented some of the biggest races in stock car racing. One of the events it covered was the Daytona 500, with ABC showcasing the last half of the race, except in 1976, where they showed the first 30 laps before tuning in to the Olympics, and then came back to catch the wild finish of the 1976 Daytona 500, seeing David Pearson edging out Richard Petty with both cars sliding sideways across the finish line. Of course, in 1979, the TV rights for the Great American Race went to CBS Sports, where they of course broadcasted the race in its entirety during a major snowstorm that blanketed much of the US, giving way to a lot of new eyes on the sport, leading up to a finish that is still talked about to this day.
And there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. The tempers overflowing. They're angry. They know they have lost. And what a bitter defeat.
While CBS was making pioneering moves for the sport, broadcasting certain races live, flag to flag, ABC was broadcasting races that they had rights to on tape delay for much of the 1970s and 1980s, with commentary added in post-production, leading to oftentimes less exciting commentary as opposed to what can be received live and in the moment.
It's going to be a drag race. Wow! They touch! Craven got him! Craven got him! And Craven! All right! What a finish!
Have you ever?
No, I've never.
Wow.
What a finish!
If needed, they would sit in a booth and call something live if it was needed for a satellite feed, but otherwise, ABC would always do the editing afterwards for the final telecast seen on television. After being launched in 1979, ESPN would eventually broadcast its first races in 1981, with the first race coming at Rockingham Speedway. From that point on, ESPN would broadcast 265 Winston Cup Series races on their platforms, including some through ABC Sports, with their final Cup Series race coming in the 2000 Napa 500 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. While rights for the Cup Series and Busch Series was dispersed between Fox, their partner network FX, NBC, and TNT beginning in 2001, coverage for NASCAR's Craftsman Truck Series remained on ESPN, as this series was under a different contract that originated from the series' inception in 1995. Afterwards, the Speed Channel took over broadcasting in 2003 as ESPN's contract expired at the conclusion of 2002. As far as what happened, when ESPN first lost the broadcast rights at the dawn of the 21st century, the real answer could simply be that NASCAR's own popularity had grown to a point where this couldn't just be an extra cog in the wheel for ESPN's long depth of sports broadcast. While today, there are several times where there needs to be filler program on ESPN, which is how you get things like professional tag. Back then, there was seemingly a lot more opportunities from other sports, and when the other companies stepped up and said they'd pay NASCAR more, well, ESPN simply lost out. And when Bob Jenkins gave the iconic goodbye message at the end of the race at Atlanta in 2000, it was truly for some the end of an iconic period in NASCAR broadcasting with ESPN.
Throughout life, we as individuals and professionals invest countless time, money, and effort in search of all the elusive elements that can bring our health and happiness to the next level. But every once in a while, magic happens. That special combination that just cannot be explained, it just happens. On a Sunday afternoon at Rockingham in 1981, the magic began. We now arrive at a moment that every member of this team had wished would never come for over a year. The time we knew that we all must go our separate ways, and then hopefully, just for a while, our NASCAR Winston Cup coverage. As the senior member of the team, I've accepted the responsibility of saying farewell. And believe me, it is not easy. Benny, Ned, Jerry, John, Bill, Mike Wells, our director, and Neil Goldberg, our producer, and a lot of other behind-the-scenes people, and I, have become like family over the years. And although I and several other members of this team will continue to be seen on ESPN, our time together as a team is over. We thank everyone at NASCAR and the various tracks we've visited, but most importantly, we thank you, our fans, who have contributed so much to our coverage down through the years. It was for you that we've done this since 1981. Without you, there would have been no magic. And so it is to you that we dedicate these next few moments. We hope you take pride, as we will, in what we've accomplished on those more than 200 Sunday afternoons.
After a few short years, however, ESPN found its way back to NASCAR by 2007, featuring the full schedule of the NASCAR Busch Series and the last part of the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series season. This proceeded for the next few years, being there to see Jimmy Johnson win 4 of his 5 consecutive championships from 2007 to 2010, with that 2006 championship being the lone exception. They were also there to broadcast Jimmy's 6th championship in 2013, along with that crazy and intense 2011 fight between Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart, seeing the two tie in points, but Tony winning the race, and of course more wins total in 2011, secured Stewart his 3rd and final championship, with ESPN giving call on the broadcast. How could one forget Brad Keselowski's 2012 championship, where, well, let's just say on ESPN he really enjoyed his then sponsor at the time, Miller Lite, a little too hard afterwards.
I got a little buzz going here. I've been drinking for a little bit, but it's been pretty good, man. I can't lie. Look at these guys behind me. They're pretty excited. I'm excited. This has been one hell of a day. I got one hell of a team, and it doesn't get any better than this.
And then finally, in 2014, ESPN broadcasted their final season of NASCAR, seeing Kevin Harvick win his first and only Cup Series championship at Homestead Miami Speedway. And at the conclusion of the race, it marked the end for a lot of relationships that many had come to know and love. For Alan Bestwick, who had spent a vast majority of his time as lead lap-by-lap announcer for ESPN, in addition to roles of other broadcasters before this time, the 2014 Ford EcoBoost 400 marked his final NASCAR race as an announcer. For a lot of ESPN's crew like Dale Jarrett, Rusty Wallace, and Brad Daugherty, we'd see them end up with other companies like NBC and PRN, the Performance Racing Network, and on-air talent roles. And for some, we saw them continue on with ESPN and other roles. Alan Bestwick would still spend many more years covering IndyCar racing, while ESPN still held those broadcasting rights. For some, seen in more analyst roles during the week, such as Marty Smith and Ryan McGee, they made the transition into full-time college football coverage. And today, Marty and McGee is its own popular program on ESPN's SEC network. And even behind television, ESPN eventually made more cuts to their journalistic side of NASCAR coverage, cutting longtime journalist Bob Pockrass at the conclusion of the 2018 season, citing budget problems for this cut. Pockrass then joined the Fox Sports team in 2019, where he remains today, and on occasion, a NASCAR story will land on ESPN's radar, but typically it seems that Ryan McGee or Marty Smith will always be ESPN's go-to on coverage for that. But when Bob was let go, for many, this truly marked the end of NASCAR and ESPN, as today it just seems to many that ESPN, the so-called worldwide leader of sports, could care less about America's premier stock car racing league. And really, people said during the entirety of the network's run from 2007 to 2014 that there seemed to be no real care to the sport from ESPN's behalf. Many cited that the network's broadcasting standards did not meet the previous standards set in the network's first run, with their biggest complaints being excessive commercials, seemingly bored announcers, and language that seemed to talk down to NASCAR fans. During that time, many fans were going to alternative ways to enjoy NASCAR racing, including DirecTV's NASCAR Hot Pass, radio broadcasts, and other forms of content to keep up with NASCAR. Many fans said in that time that they enjoyed the broadcasting from Fox more at the time, despite the broadcast seeming to be full of gimmicks. In days long before social media, many fans looking for another perspective on a sport easily preferred what was presented via the Speed Network in this time period when that was available. Not only were fans seemingly unhappy with the product presented, but oftentimes too many contractual sports obligations for ESPN hurt the presentation of NASCAR. This times, pre-race shows and even starts of races were forced to be shown on ESPN Classics and ESPN News. In 2010, NASCAR had set a standardized 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern start time for all East Coast Day races for all of its broadcast partners. And during football season, ESPN moved NASCAR Countdown to ESPN2 for all races in the chase for the Cup that started at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time in order to avoid shortening or moving Sunday NFL Countdown on main ESPN. So that's just how high on the totem pole that NASCAR was for ESPN. We were in the playoffs for a championship, and it was put on the back burner for a show about a sport still in the early part of its season that wouldn't even be broadcasted on their network until Monday. At that point in the day, most eyes are probably already going to CBS and Fox to watch the games, but yet a big point for NASCAR, being broadcasted on ESPN momentarily, had to play second fiddle to the NFL. The list of problems NASCAR and ESPN had in the end is really long in all reality, but the true problem as to what happened is that they just stopped caring about motorsports. I've seen this at other events they used to broadcast. Bassmaster, one of my personal favorites, is in a much better position today with Fox than they were with ESPN. With ESPN, they got short broadcasts in a tight, early morning window several weeks after the tournament in a recorded and edited fashion. Today on Fox, they actually get live broadcasts showing almost the entirety of the fishing tournament. The same can be said for NASCAR. Personally, I think that NASCAR was being misunderstood and underappreciated as an entity of ESPN. But likewise, as many have begun to notice, no broadcast company is perfect. Many today could find faults and issues with the two broadcast partners we have today even. Some are starting to wonder even, will we eventually see ESPN return once again? It's been almost 10 years since their last race. Could they redeem themselves? Well, we'll get a chance to get a taste of that as SRX, the Superstar Racing Experience, has recently announced that for the 2023 racing season, they have moved from Saturday night shows to Thursdays, switching from CBS to ESPN. To my knowledge, I don't know if Alan Bestwick will be a part of that move too. I think he's actually been working on other sports projects with CBS since that move happened. So this may be a unique opportunity to see a new crop of talent on behalf of ESPN's motorsports coverage. But with all of that being said, what do you think of ESPN's time covering NASCAR? I think a lot can agree that it was great originally and certainly sad when Bob Jenkins said goodbye to us all in 2000, but their second run, did that leave a bad taste in your mouth? Would you ever want to see NASCAR back on ESPN? Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe if you're new to never miss another new video from DannyBTalks. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye guys. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video from DannyBTalks. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on the video, and if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. You might like all the other videos here on this YouTube channel. I talk about all things NASCAR, past, present, and future. Until next time, have a great day. Bye guys.